You are watching The First. I'm not sure what I was the first at, but I certainly did it before everyone else. Hey, you clicked on another one of my videos. I'm starting to wonder why, but you know what? It's your life. You can do it if you want. Recently, I made a video counting down the dungeons in Twilight Princess. And in this video, I sort of referenced that I was going to make another one explaining how I got the rankings I did. So here's how that works. Twilight Princess has 9 dungeons. I look at each dungeon's item, mini-boss, boss, and overall experience. The best out of all of them gets a score of 9, the worst gets a score of 1. Add them all together and you have a total for each dungeon. So to start, let's look at each dungeon's item. Starting off at our first item, nothing! HYRULE Castle offered no item and therefore scored only a 1. Item number 2 is your Master Sword being able to shine, courtesy of the Palace of Twilight. 2 points. Item number 3, the Dominion Rod. Kind of useful in the dungeon, not really outside of it. Sort of fun to use, and at the same time, not really. It's kind of obvious how many points this gets. Moving on. Item number 4 is the Spinner. Like the Dominion Rod, it's more useful inside its own dungeon than anywhere else. However, the Spinner is a lot more fun. Number 5, the Gale Boomerang. You can hit things far away and lock onto multiple targets. It's pretty good. It's a shame it's not deadlier though. Number 6, the Ball and Chain. Simple, destructive, fun, and really heavy. At number 7, the Claw Shot. It's fun. You zip here, you zip there, you zip all over the place. Number 8 is the Double Claw Shot. It's like the regular Claw Shot, except it's better. A whole lot better. And getting a total of 9 points is the Hero's Bow. It's deadly, it's effective, and it's accurate. Moving on to the next category, the mini-bosses. And starting us off at number 1 is Phantom Zant from the Twilight Palace. He's meant to be scary, but he just comes off as annoying. He doesn't even directly fight you, he just throws other enemies at you. Coming in with 2 points is the Deku Toad. He's a very fat frog. Yep, that about sums it up. Number 3 is Dangoro. You can basically defeat him by pushing him, sort of like you did earlier with goats. I can actually compare this boss to goats. 3. He's lucky enough to get that. The number 4 mini-boss is Death Sword. I've already talked a bit about how his weakness is pretty much the worst ever, but he actually uses a sword and we're starting to get into the more advanced fights. So, yeah, he scores above everyone else for that reason alone. At number 5 is King Bulblin. You've seen him throughout the entire game. You've even encountered him a few times. And while most people still probably look at him as a joke, I think he should be taken a little bit more seriously. The main reason he scored above Death Sword, he has no blatantly obvious weakness. It's just you fighting a large guy with a giant axe. For number 6, Darkhammer. If you don't know who that is, it's the guy with the thing. Although he has an obvious weakness, which is the back of his armor, it's still a pretty cool fight. He also gives you the number 6 item. Coincidence. Number 7 is Chief Ook, the monkey guy. You fight him without any items and it manages to be a really fun mini-boss. In my other video I kinda talked about how much I appreciated this, so I really have nothing else to add to that. At number 8 is an Eralthos, or however you would pronounce that. Later in the game, he's a common enemy, but this is the first time you see him, so that's pretty cool. He's not too difficult to beat, but it's a fun fight. The number 9 mini-boss is a Dark Nut. He's a common enemy who's actually a swordsman, and is very skilled at that. Although this is the first Arknut you encounter, it certainly isn't your last. Each time you face one, it takes time and skill to defeat him, and when you do defeat him, you just feel plain awesome. And that wraps up all the mini-bosses, so now we finally get to move on to the actual bosses. Starting off our list, earning 1 point is Twilight Igniter Virus. You shoot him in the forehead, you yank on his chain, he falls down, and you hit him a bunch of times. Rinse and repeat this process, and then hit a staples button, because that was easy. And in the number 2 spot, there is Twilight Parasite Diababa. Despite this boss having a fun name to say, it wasn't exactly interesting. In the number 3 spot is Twilight Ice Mask Blizzetta. You have to fight her on ice, and she can control ice. I can't exactly put my finger on what's wrong with this boss, I just don't enjoy it for some reason. I don't know, maybe it's just the whole ice thing. And at the number 4 spot is Ganon's Puppet Zelda, Dark Beast Ganon, Ganondorf on horseback, and Dark Lord Ganondorf. In case you haven't guessed it, I didn't like this boss because it was long. Really long. When the boss first starts, you're all like, "Oh cool, I'm fighting Zelda and Ganondorf, we get to do the tennis thing, this is awesome." And then you're like, "Whoa, he's a beast and I can be a wolf and we can fight like dogs. It's a dog fight, get it?" And then you're like, "Oh, we're on horses now." And Zelda keeps missing. And, isn't he dead yet? So when you finally reach the last part of the battle and it's supposed to be really exciting, you're instead more like, "Oh good, finally at the sword fight. Almost over. Got a tepe. Just die already." And that's why it's number 4. Number 5 is Twilight Aquatic Morpheal. He's huge, he's awesome looking, he doesn't directly attack you. But hey, he's fun to fight, and that's why he got 5. Number 6 is Usurper King Zant. He copies a bunch of other bosses and mini-bosses, so, hit or miss depending on what part you're fighting him at. But mostly hit, which is why he got 6. Number 7 is Twilight Dragon Argarok. Looks incredibly awesome, fun to fight, and let's be honest, it's about time Link took down a dragon. Number 8 is Armogoma. Not a difficult boss in the least, but extremely satisfying to smash with a giant fist. And number 9 is Twilight Fossil Stalord. If you've actually played this game, then you know Stalord is fun. You break his spine, you smash his head, and in the end, you had a good time. And still, I ask the question, what on earth was he before he was a skeleton? That would have been cool to face. Alright, and now that all the bosses are done, we are looking at our last category, the overall dungeon experience. It took a while, I'm glad we made it here. So let's start at number 1, which is the Lakebed Temple. Surprise! It has water in it, it has those steps, it gives me a headache. And at number 2 is the Palace of Twilight. I don't know if Nintendo has a thing for hands, but it clearly shows here. Number 3 is the GORON Mines. You have to wear the boots and go slow. There is no efficient way to do this fast, you just have to deal with it. Number 4, the Forest Temple. Doesn't matter how many times I play through this one, I always get mad at the monkeys. Don't know why, they just tick me off. Number 5, the City in the Sky. Yeah, it looks cool, but it's not nearly as fun as it looks. Number 6 is HYRULE Castle. Yes, it is a huge dungeon, but the atmosphere is perfect throughout all of it. So, hard to complain about that. Number 7, SNOWPEAK Ruins. I've never seen another dungeon that made me think, boy, I would have liked to live there at one point. Except, it's totally trashed now and filled with monsters, so scratch that, I'm gonna live somewhere else. Number 8, Arbiter's Grounds. This entire place just makes you feel like you are on an adventure, which technically you are. So that's a good thing. And at number 9, the Temple of Time. I've already explained it in the other video, but I'll do it again. It's just fun. You play through it, it's kinda straightforward, but each individual room has a unique puzzle to it. So that's why I remember it very well. And now with everything else in place, we can add up all the scores to rank the dungeons in order. Starting with the Palace of Twilight, its item scored a 2, its mini-boss scored a 1, its boss scored a 6, and it overall scored a 2, leaving it a total of 11 points. Moving on to 7th place with the Lakebed Temple, its item scored a 7, its mini-boss a 2, its boss a 5, and overall a 1, giving it a score of 15 points. In 6th place, there is a tie. The GORON Mines item scored a 9, its mini-boss scored a 3, its boss scored a 1, and its overall experience scored a 3, giving it a total of 16. HYRULE Castle scored a 1 with its item, a 5 with its mini-boss, a 4 with its boss, and a 6 with its overall experience, giving it also a score of 16. In 5th place, there is the Forest Temple, with its item scoring 5, mini-boss scoring 7, boss scoring 2, and overall scoring 4, for a total of 18 points. In 4th place, the SNOWPEAK Ruins, its item scoring a 6, its mini-boss scoring a 6, its boss scoring a 3, and its overall experience a 7, giving it a total of 22 points. In 3rd place is Arbiter's Ground, its item scored a 4, its mini-boss scored a 4, its boss scored a 9, and overall it scored an 8, giving it a score of 25 points. In 2nd place, there is the City in the Sky. Its item scored an 8, its mini-boss scored an 8, its boss scored a 7, and overall it scored a 5, giving it a total of 28 points. And in 1st is the Temple of Time, with its item scoring only a 3, its mini-boss scoring a 9, its boss scoring an 8, and overall scoring a 9 to give it a total of 29 points. Alright, well that about wraps it up. I would just like to remind everyone that this is my personal opinion, and while I did use logic to get to it, you could take the exact same steps and come up with completely different answers, so just keep that in mind if you disagree with me. I am the first, and hopefully this is not the last you'll hear of me. See you next time.